then everything will align the way it's supposed to. So then also see no interference with anything with the way that stock handle is over in the center of the dash there. Alright everybody, welcome back to the channel, MC Off-Road. If you don't know what we do here, you can head over to our main page. We have an overview video of all the different products and services that we offer. Today's video, we are going to be going through our shift gates, different options for the Can-Am Defenders, along with our short shifter that has the option of our shift handle. Obviously, short shifter, shorter than the OEM, and we will go through the benefits of that when it's installed in the machine, along with the option of our shift handle here that goes on that. This end is threaded, the same thread as the OEM, so if you wanted to use your stock shift handle, you can certainly still use that instead of our shift handle. The other products here are our shift gates. So the shift gate on the Defender stock is a plastic cover that goes over that the shifter rides on. That is a straight path shifter. It doesn't have the individual locations for gears. Leaves you open for, if you have it in reverse or neutral, it has the possibility to pop in and out. This is also metal, so it's going to obviously wear a lot better than the OEM plastic one will. Here we have our brushed stainless finish with the gear selections etched on there, so that way it doesn't rub off or anything. And then this is our powder coated finish with the powder coat etched off to then show the same stainless brushed finish underneath. Both are the stainless, it's just this is powder coated over the standard brushed stainless and then etched opposite. So from here we will head over to the machine and start doing the install. Alright, so here we are in the cab and do the install. You can see here, this is how the stock shifter comes across the dash. If you want to use a tablet holder or anything here, most likely down in the gears, it's not an interference with your device. When you put it up in park, most likely you're going to hit your device when you put it in park. So that's why we developed the short shifter. Start the process of doing the shifter and the shift gate. We're going to need a T30 Torx, either screwdriver or ratchet, and a 13 millimeter wrench to start off with. Once you get down inside of here, you'll also need a 10 millimeter wrench and 10 millimeter socket, but we'll get to that once we get this apart. Now, first thing you want to do is you want to pull this rubber down here, and you can see underneath here there is a jam nut. That is the 13 millimeter. You want to take that, put it on the jam nut, and you want to loosen that jam nut up. At that point, then you can go ahead. I usually just take your screwdriver right in the handle here. Because it's got some Loctite on it, sometimes it can be kind of tight. Just to get it started. You see all the Loctite on there. Remove this nut first, then we'll slide the rubber boot off. And then we want to go ahead and remove two T30 Torx bolts. So now with our T30 bolts, top and bottom removed, we'll move the shifter down into kind of the reverse position here. and then we're going to lift the plastic straight up and out, and then slide it off over the shifter. We're going to set this piece off to the side for now, because we're going to alter this piece for the shift gate overlay. Down in here you can see that the shifter pivots on this bolt right here. So we're going to use two 10mm wrenches to take the nut off this end, and then we're going to go ahead and slide the bolt out towards the front side of the dash, out this way. When we do that, you want to take into account this retainer spring here. That's what gives this shifter its location. So it's always going to want to pull back towards the center of the dash because of how this spring is located around this shaft. So you pull it out, you want to note that orientation, so that way when we put the new short shifter in, it is installed the same way, so it still has the same functionality. Alright, so with the bolt out, I'm going to go ahead and pull this up and out of there. You want to be careful because there is a metal sleeve with plastic bushings, and then your spring that's on there. We are just going to leave this spring on this piece. When we go over to, or when we bring over the short one, we'll install it on there the same way. So we got the spring on the short shifter here, the same orientation as it came off the OEM. The pre-installed bushings are in each side of the shifter. You don't need to reuse the metal sleeve or anything like that. These are hardened plastic bushings with carbon fiber, so they're not going to wear the same way that the plastic bushings would have wore on that metal sleeve. When you install this, you're going to want to take note of these two tabs on the spring. Those two tabs are going to want to line up on the left side of each tab, bent metal tab on this bracket. So you put the metal spring on each side here, left side of each of those bent tabs, and then you push the center bushing down into location so you can slide your bolt back through. It does require two hands to do that, so it's not easy for me to show you, but that's the basic concept. Alright, so now we got everything back installed. A little extra tip that I forgot to tell you guys about when you're taking the bolt out, but if you reach down underneath this plastic piece, you can get up underneath. There's a little access hole right here, kind of give you extra room to kind of put your bolt back through. Now, check functionality. Spring pushes it back over to the center of the dash, so we're good there. We'll go ahead and reinstall our nut, get that tightened up, take our plastic shift gate over to the workbench and start working on getting that altered. Now for altering your plastic cover to get the metal one to work, first thing, I'm going to take a small needle nose. I'm going to take these little metal washers and we're going to go ahead and just kind of work them off of these plastic tabs. You do want to kind of do this gently so that way you don't break the tabs off, because we are going to reinstall those once we get this out of the way. We're just taking this shifter boot off and out of the way because in our next step we are going to trim along this plastic, so that way when the shift gate's in there, you know, the shifter doesn't interfere with those plastic sections. So we're gonna just trim out those plastic sections and go from there. So be gentle when taking these off. Alright, so now the metal retainer's removed. Go ahead and just pull the shift boot off of those tabs. It'll come right out of there. then what we're going to want to do is trace a line straight from where the edge of the shifter would hit the plastic here. Trace a line down to where it would hit there. And trace a line down to where it would hit in low on the very end. Want to do the same thing on this side. And then once we get that traced, then you're going to want to go ahead and use either a small Dremel with a little cutoff wheel or some sort of small router cutter to go ahead and cut those sections off. So that way this is basically just a open square. One thing you want to be careful of is you can't cut too far over. You can see, or if you stay in line with that, you're not going to remove these tabs, but if you go too far over, you're going to hit the tab. That's why you stick right to the edge, and when you cut that out, it'll still retain those tabs so you can reinstall the shift boot. So I wanted to show you, this is the cutoff wheel on the Dremel I'll be using. Obviously, while you're cutting, you want to wear your safety glasses. You don't want hot plastic flying up into your eyes. Alright, so this is what I have once you get it trimmed out. I did trim a little bit of this. In some cases it will help. It will help it kind of go into park a little bit easier with that trimmed out. So I'll just go ahead and suggest trimming that little bit on the bottom of this lip here. Trimming that off as well. You can see still retained our tabs on the bottom for our shifter boot. So at this point we're going to go ahead and put the shifter boot back on, slide those retainer clips back on, and then we will head back over to the machine and start to reinstall these pieces. Back in the cab here, we're going to go ahead and slide this back on. Pull the shifter over so it goes through the shift boot. And push that back down into place where it needs to be. You can hear that kind of pop. It's just trying to wedge in between this piece of plastic and the other piece of plastic on the inside. Just kind of snapped in there this time. Sometimes it does it, sometimes it doesn't. Don't be alarmed if it does. Now at this point, you can go ahead and just put your shifter overlay on top. You can go ahead and verify this to turn your machine on. You can see what gear you're in. We'll go ahead and get it in neutral. Get the shift gate in place, and then we will use the two OEM bolts that we took out, those T30 Torx. We'll just reinstall this right through the OEM holes. So now we went ahead and tightened down our bolts here. In the previous shots there, when we were putting the plastic back in, it looked like things weren't going to line up. It looks that way just because the bolts aren't tight. Once you start to tighten them up, everything kind of sinks into place and everything will align the way it's supposed to. So then, once you have those tightened, you can go ahead and put whatever shift knob that you're going to run, whether it be the OEM, our shift knob, or an aftermarket. In this case, we just put the OEM back on, put the jam nut back on it, screwed that down, tighten the jam nut up to the bottom, keep it nice and secure so that way it's not going to come off on you. And then your process for the shift gate and the short shifter is completed. You can also see now there's no interference with anything with the way that stock handle is over in the center of the dash there. So thanks for watching. Go over if you want to see more of our videos, subscribe. If you have any questions, you can either contact us directly through the website or through the comments. Thanks everybody, safe riding.